General, would you care to step outside?
Superman.
Superman, thank God. I mean,
Get him! Come to me, son of Jor-El. Kneel before Zod.
The Man of Steel challenges a villain from Krypton in Superman 2, one of 4 new movies we'll be reviewing this week on Sneak Previews. Across the aisle from me is Gene Siskel, film critic of the Chicago Tribune.
And across the aisle from me, Roger Ebert, film critic of the Chicago Sun-Times. In addition to Superman 2, we'll be reviewing the brutal thriller Eyes of a Stranger, also Burt Reynolds' latest car crash comedy, The Cannonball Run. But first, Roger begins with Bill Murray in basic training in Stripes.
Well, ever since National Lampoon's Animal House went through the roof of the box office 3 years ago, the summertime has become the season for at least one irreverent, gross-out, anarchistic slapstick comedy. Last summer it was Airplane, and this summer it's Stripes, which is a very funny film that could almost be retitled National Lampoon's Animal Army. It stars Saturday Night Live veteran Bill Murray as the biggest misfit in an outfit full of misfits, a platoon of draftees who train themselves after their drill sergeant is injured. In this scene, they horrify the Army brass as they pass in review.
Boom. Boom. Quiet. Boom. Platoon, let's do a little singing this morning. Boom. 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 Play. Play. Feel great. Feel great. Wine women. Wine women. Hold on. Hold on. A 1, 2. Boom, shaka-laka-laka, boom, shaka-laka-laka, boom, shaka-laka-laka, boom.
Where the hell have you been, soldier?
Training, sir! Training, sir!
What kind of training, son?
Army training, sir! Army training, sir! Who wanted the chicken cross the road? They get from the left to the right. Right! Hit! Hit! He stepped out of range, got hit by a team. He ain't no chicken no more. No. Left leg, left. Razzle dazzle. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. First round, 5 jumps over the lazy dog. Turn.
Where's your drill sergeant, men?
Load up, sir! Load up, sir!
yes, sir. These are Sergeant Hulker's men. He was injured during basic training.
I see. So am I to understand that you men completed your training on your own?
That's the fact, Jack! That's the fact, Jack!
The audience loves that scene, you know, up the establishment. Summertime movies like Stripes usually contain a lot of sex and raunchy humor, but you might ask, you might even wonder, how can Stripes find sex in basic training? Well, it does, all right. Bill Murray falls in love with P.J. Souls, who plays a military policewoman who strays pretty far from her beat. Here they are inside the home of the base commander who's out of town for the weekend.
You know what your problem is, baby?
No, I don't.
The problem is that you're armed. You're heavily armed. And I have a lot of trouble with girls that are armed. They don't know how to come on. You know what the rest of your problem is?
Tell me.
You've never had anybody give you the Aunt Jemima treatment.
No, I certainly haven't
Yeah,
had
it's
that.
real simple. First you get up on the griddle. I'll get you up to cruising speed. Wait, I'm plugging a stick on the bottom, my dear. Keep hopping. Keep hopping, honey. Keep. There you go. A little bit lumpy. A little bit lumpy.
I'm not enjoying this. Now quit
You're not, huh?
it. Quit it.
Maybe you need this.
Oh, what are you going to do with that?
This. And this. Who's your friend? Who's your buddy? I am, aren't I? You're crazy about me, aren't you?
No.
You're incredibly head over heels in love with me.
No.
You're helplessly, hopelessly, deeply in love with me, aren't you?
Yes.
I knew it. I had that feeling. Even before I picked this up.
Kind of like an orgy at Baskin and Robbins. Stripes goes on to an hilarious climax involving the Army's newest secret weapon, which is, believe it or not, a nuclear-powered, computerized, fully armored recreational vehicle. Some of the movie's early basic training situations seem like a male version of Goldie Hawn's Private Benjamin, but that's okay. These are both good movies, the two movies that make a great double feature someday. Stripes is a real breakthrough for Bill Murray, who had a big hit called Meatballs that really didn't do justice to his talent a couple of years ago, but this one does. And Murray is surrounded by a cast of great improvisational character actors, people who can somehow preserve the dramatic impact of a scene, even while they're going for the big laugh, and there are a lot of big laughs in Stripes.
Well, I liked it too. Maybe not quite as much as you seem to like it, but I enjoyed it very much. And I think what I enjoyed is finding, in addition to the obvious gags, finding sort of a comic attitude in Bill Murray that I think is sort of interesting. And that is, he seems to be always putting on how seriously people take themselves. The whole seriousness of romance in that last scene, the seriousness of the army. He just goes right at the people. It's different than Private Benjamin, where she was the ignorant one.
Yeah.
Here, he's the smart one laughing at them.
We might also mention Harold Ramis, who co-wrote this movie, and he was
Right.
also one of the authors of National Lampoon's Animal House, and he's the co-star here, the guy with the big glasses.
That's the
in
guy,
training scene.
yeah, that's the guy who, when you were talking about character actor who's believable yet funny, he's great, because he doesn't look like a movie star at all.
And he listens to all this solemn army propaganda with a real solemn look, and you realize he doesn't believe a single word of it.
Yeah, it's a very good, enjoyable comedy for the summer. Well, our next picture, Eyes of a Stranger, is an extremely well-made film, too, but it's a hideously brutal thriller about a murdering maniac loose in Miami. On his trail is Lauren Tews, the cruise director on TV's Love Boat, and her fans are going to be quite surprised by this film. In the picture, she plays a television reporter who discovers that the killer lives in a high-rise apartment building next door to her own. And in an effort to find out more about him, she snoops around his apartment while he's away. That scene is even more scary in the theater when you see it alone in the dark, because the movie has made this creep out to be a ruthless, cold-blooded, vicious killer. He sticks knives in people's throats and then he twists the knives. It's all very disgusting and very bloody. So while we admire the technique of the movie making here, it's a good thriller. We're regularly being grossed out by the film's excessive brutality. The killer first terrorizes his victims by calling them on the telephone, and in an effort to give him a taste of his own medicine, Lauren Tews begins calling him.
Yes.
Is anyone there?
I know what you're doing. And I know it's you, Mr. Herbert.
Who is this?
Never mind. Let's talk about you, Mr. Phone Freak. How does it feel to have the tables turned?
I think you've got the wrong person.
Oh? If that's so, how come you haven't hung up yet? What's the matter? Cat got your tongue?
What do you want?
I want you to turn yourself in.
Look, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Leave me alone. Damn it, I had enough of this crap! Stop calling me! Stop calling me!
You don't understand, Mr. Herbert. It's not up to you to decide.
Eyes of a Stranger is a strange bird in the mad slasher movie category. It's better made than all the other ones I've seen in the last year, but it still is needlessly gross and vile. There's no reason why we have to suffer through a scene where the killer slaps around a blind teenage girl before sexually attacking her. This is very rough stuff and hardly legitimate entertainment. So I can't recommend Eyes of a Stranger, even though I must admit I admire the skillful way in which the film was put together.
You know, my reaction had some of the same ambivalence. It's kind of funny. One week you'll walk into a movie that's violent, disgusting, gruesome, and horrifying, and bad. And it's very easy to make up your mind about that. But in a way, this sort of film is even more disturbing because it's made with a certain amount of craftsmanship and artistry. You walk in, you sit down, you admire the way the film is put together, and at the same time, it's got these really unsavory elements in it. They're a real turnoff. It's even more horrifying in a way.
I was curious about who the person was that made this, so I did some checking on it. Found out this guy has made some films for PBS, Public Broadcasting Network. And what this told me was a very sad fact about the American movie industry, which is the easiest way to break into the movies, which so many people want to do, is make a real disgusting horror film. They're easy to sell, and they do sell, and they can be made cheaply.
Maybe this guy probably has a screenplay he would like to make if he could get the financing.
So I really did have that ambivalent feeling. I said, here's a guy who's prostituting his talent with some really rough stuff.
And at the same time, I was very disturbed by the reaction that the audience had. For example, there's one scene in the movie where the blind girl is calling for her seeing eye dog. The killer has already killed the dog.
Right.
She's clapping for the dog to come. The whole audience is whistling and clapping and making fun of this girl. It's as if the inhumanity on the screen has leaked out into the theater.
Well, it's really disturbing, and of course there's the scene where they're slapping the kid around. I mean, you're just wondering what you're watching. It's more like a crime than a movie.
It's a very good observation. Now we move on from a reprehensible movie to a merely idiotic one, and people say they like a job where all they have to do is go to the movies all the time. Well, maybe that's because they haven't had to sit through Eyes of a Stranger, and now the Cannonball Run, which is a coast-to-coast car chase movie starring Burt Reynolds, Dom DeLuise, and half the membership of the Screen Actors Guild. So many actors grope their way through this terrible movie to so little avail, you need a scorecard to tell the players. Now look at this scene, which 20th Century Fox has edited into a rogues gallery. You're going to see Peter Fonda, Adrienne Barbeau, Bert Convy, Burt Reynolds, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., Dom DeLuise playing a character named Captain Chaos, and Roger Moore playing Roger Moore. It's like Hollywood Squares gone berserk.
Don't you look precious, all dressed up like that, and wearing a wig, too. Ain't he cute? Well, he looks like Gregory Peck in a blue flannel suit.
Why don't we go over there and help him out?
What do you mean, we?
Dun, dun, dun!
Well, shall we join the fracas?
Need some help, Father?
Give me somebody!
Step back, my dear. I must warn you, I'm Roger Moore.
Who?
Roger Moore.
You're so macho.
What? This?
What a consummate mess. The problem with the Cannonball Run is that it's all walk-ons and nothing to walk onto. You can see that in that scene. The movie starts out with a possibly semi-interesting premise, not very original, about a coast-to-coast race over interstate highways. They outrun the police, they break the speed limit, they break every other law in the book. We've seen that before, and it could be fun, but the movie doesn't do anything with it. The director is Hal Needham, who directed Burt Reynolds before. He made both of the Smokey and the Bandit movies, and he's also a former stuntman who thinks it's funny to show cars endlessly crashing into one another. well, I guess I didn't get the joke, or maybe I got the joke in the first 10 minutes, and then I kept waiting for the movie to think of something new. This was really a crashing bore.
Unbelievably bad. And let me tell you, I have never seen a movie. If there's a surefire formula in American movies, it's the car chase cross country. It always works until this one. They blow the easiest formula in the history of American movies. Films like Gumball Rally, Grand Theft Auto, Death Race 2000. These are no-brainer films, and they blow this because there's nothing to the characters. It's all crashing, stupid. Burt Reynolds has gotten so powerful in the movie industry, he can get his own director and his own friends as co-stars, and I think they think that anything that they do, anything is funny, and it's not.
I think the end of this movie is kind of symptomatic. They do something that was original about 3 years ago, and now you see it in about every 10th film. They use outtakes at the end of the film. Those are takes that were spoiled. Somebody said the wrong thing,
Right,
or
they crack up.
forgot his line, they crack up, they laugh. What a party they're having. I think you can see there, and you can see elsewhere in the movie, for Burt Reynolds, this is a party. Now, Reynolds is a talented actor, and he's made a lot of good movies, and maybe he'll make some more good movies. I hope so. But in this one, it's almost as if he got together with Dom DeLuise and Hal Needham and all of his other friends, and they went out on the road, and they had no respect for the audience. They felt, if we have a good time, that's all that counts.
Yeah, and I think that's the real feeling that you get. I feel like I am totally ripped off when I see the picture, that it's their party, they're getting paid the millions, and I'm getting stuck with a $4 ticket that's not worth 50 cents.
It's their party, and we'll cry if we want to, right?
Okay. Our next movie, we've stepped way up in class. It's the summer's biggest hit. It's Superman 2, and it's just delightful, a sequel that stands on its own. This is no ripoff. I enjoyed it even more than the original Superman film. In part 2, Superman and Clark Kent are again played by Christopher Reeve. Early on in the film, Lois Lane, again played by Margot Kidder, is convinced that Clark Kent and Superman are indeed the same person. To force Clark Kent into revealing himself as Superman, Lois decides to jump into Niagara Falls Rapids. She is certain Superman will save her.
I'm so sure that you're Superman that I'm willing to bet my life on it.
What?
Now, if I'm right, you'll turn into Superman. And if I'm wrong, you've got yourself one hell of a story.
You think I'm Superman? Boy, you certainly have some imagination, Lois. For a minute there, you almost had me convinced. For a minute.
Bye-bye, baby.
Oh, my God. Excuse me, please. Look out for the rocks! Oh, God. Guys are back! Lois, you all right?
Here. Clark! You're what I thought was Superman.
Sorry.
This is really embarrassing.
He's just great there. Christopher Reeve as Clark Kent. He doesn't get enough credit, I think, for the Clark Kent role in these films. He sort of reminds me of Cary Grant in some of his comedies, bumbling, yet very appealing. The main themes in the Superman sequel, of course, are the threats to the survival of the planet Earth and Superman's love for Lois Lane. Well, first, the threat to Earth. It's posed by 3 space criminals with superpowers from Krypton. They were trapped in an outer space jail in the first movie, you'll recall. Now they've escaped and they've come to Earth to rule it. They first arrive in a western town, and the U.S. Army goes all out to stop them.
Stand by rocket. Now one. Fire again. Fire again. Up and down target.
They need machines to fly.
What bravery! Be nice to them, my dear. Blow them a kiss.
Lots of action there, but the romance is the best part of this movie as Superman declares his love for Lois Lane.
I thought we might, abandon the orange juice for once?
Here, cheers.
Cheers. For the first time in my life, everything's clear.
I'm gonna go change into something more comfortable.
That's nice. We haven't had too many good love stories in the movies lately. However, this is one. In fact, I thought the love story was better than the film's action scenes, which for me went on a little too long and weren't, I thought, all that special. No, it's the love story and Christopher Reeve's performance as Superman and as Clark Kent that makes Superman 2 such a success. It's tough being a convincing lover wearing a red cape and blue tights, but Christopher Reeve does it very well. I can't wait for Superman 3, and I think I got to wait 2 years.
Yeah, I do too. You know, it's kind of a close call whether you like the love story or the special effects more. I think most people who are going to see this movie, and millions of people are interested in the special effects, and especially in the way that this movie combines Superman, who was really the first pop art hero, with all these other pop artifacts like the Empire State Building, the Eiffel Tower, Times Square, the Coca-Cola sign, and so forth. But on the other hand, I love the love story, and I was just thinking, watching that scene, the casting director of this film should get a lot of the credit because this kind of material could easily slide right off into the totally ridiculous. And Margot Kidder and Christopher Reeve, Gene Hackman, and the rest are good enough actors to really be able to carry it off.
And I think Reeve really has to get the credit here. If you didn't buy that this Superman character was real in some way, that his emotions were real at least, the whole thing would fall off. It would be either just a kiddie show or it would be a put down of the material. But I think that Reeve in his portrayal does something very special, which is he has fun with it, he enjoys it, and we enjoy that too, but he buys it. He believes it, we go with it. I think it's a nice job of acting, really, and I think this is the kind of picture where the acting just gets overlooked, so that's why I want to signal it out.
You know, I was trying to think back 2, 3, 4 years ago to when I first heard they were going to make a Superman movie, and I thought it can't be done, you know. And the original ads, remember, you'll believe a man can fly. I believed a man could fly, but I didn't believe he could make any money at the box office. So now that the series is a success, and there is going to be a Superman 3, it's interesting to think how easily this whole thing could have gone wrong.
Well, here's our furry little critic who always finds something wrong with the movie. Spot the Wonder Dog. Time for Dog of the Week, the week's worst movies.
Well, Gene, my dog this week is another one of those strongest man in town movies. It's called Bare Knuckles, and it stars Zach Kane as a citizen bounty hunter, Citizen Kane. His idea of a good time is to find some thug in an alley and beat him into a pulp before turning him over to the police. Zach Kane is a tough-looking dude who has a slight resemblance to Charles Bronson, and Bare Knuckles has more than a slight resemblance to Charles Bronson's own fistfight movie, Hard Times. The resemblance is especially obvious during the fight scenes in Bare Knuckles, which are endless and repetitive and have substandard Hollywood zilch-grade production values. That means every time somebody gets hit in the jaw, it sounds like a sound effects man is attacking a naugahyde sofa with a ping pong paddle. If anybody ever did really hit that hard, they wouldn't have bare knuckles, they'd have split knuckles.
Okay, well, my dog this week is a ridiculous thriller called It Came Without Warning. The It is an outer space alien that looks like that big creature that stepped off the mothership in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. The only difference is that this creature is real ugly, and it throws slimy green little frisbees with teeth in them into the human beings. Jack Palance catches a few in the chest and neck, and so do a bunch of other people. The only time this movie is fun is when that creature is on the screen, but unfortunately, it doesn't pop up until the film's very last reel. So it came without warning, all right, but unfortunately, it showed up way too late.
Now let's take another look at the main movies on this program. We both voted yes on Stripes, the basic training comedy starring Bill Murray. It's a great summer entertainment. We both recommend you see it. But 2 definite no votes for Eyes of a Stranger, where technical expertise was wasted on sleazy and violent subject matter, a real unsavory film. 2 more no votes on the Cannonball Run, the dumb car chase fiasco starring Burt Reynolds. And finally, 2 very enthusiastic yes votes for Superman 2. Gene and I both thought it was even better than the original.
Maybe we ought to take a look at the summer's movies and how they're developing, because a lot of the big ones are out. One thing that I noticed right away is that a lot of these films are part of what I call the juvenilization of the American movie. These are a lot of films pitched at the young audience, and I'm afraid that I don't like that trend for the only reason that I wish there was a more wide range of material. I think the movies are tending to become the exclusive property of the young, and that bothers me.
Well, it is a trend. I don't know if I dislike it or not. 80% of the movie audience is under the age of 25, and so I guess they might as well make movies for the average moviegoer who is probably 17 or 18 years old. The problem is, as a critic, I'm always writing reviews saying, this movie made me feel like a kid again. Well, I enjoyed that. The Raiders of the Lost Ark, Superman 2, it's great to feel like a kid again. Once in a while, I'd like to feel like an adult again.
Okay, I agree with you. Very good. Next week on Sneak Previews, we'll review Roger Moore in Trouble Again in the latest James Bond thriller, For Your Eyes Only. Also, a story of dragons, sorcerers, and a magic amulet in Dragon Slayer, and Miss Piggy and friends dancing their way into your hearts in the second Muppet movie, The Great Muppet Caper. Until then, we'll see you at the movies.
Funding for Sneak Previews was provided by this station and by other public television stations.